Ah yes, it's officially the holiday season. That means it's time to look back on what we accomplished throughout the year. And while this year has certainly been something overall, it was actually really good game-wise. There were some really neat releases such as UFO 50, the Thousand Door Remake, Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble, Sonic X Shadow Generations, and much, much more. While most of the titles I focused on this year are older retro games, I did play some newer titles as well, including a few that were released this year. I won't be including any live service mobile titles, so no, I will not be talking about any games that shut down this year, such as the infamous Civ 2. Alright, and with that, without further ado, let's get into what I played this year. Roll the tape! Kirby Superstar Ultra is one of the few games on this year's game clearing list that I had started over a decade ago and only just got around to finishing. I was stuck on the Great Cave Offensive for the longest time, which, yeah, it was really confusing for me personally. I actually had a friend help me out this time around. We played through the Great Cave Offensive on the original version via NSO, and it honestly helped me out a ton. I can't thank them enough, honestly. Thanks to that experience, I was finally able to complete the mode on my copy of Superstar Ultra. Didn't exactly 100% it, but it's better than nothing, really. I just wanted to clear this. Also, funnily enough, Meta Knight's Revenge and Milky Way Wishes weren't as hard for me. It's actually one of my all-time favorite remakes, and I don't say this lightly. Behold! My first roguelike deck builder game, lovingly gifted to me by my good pal Josh! This was to prepare me for the next game on my game clearing list, and he was willing to walk me through the game with no worries. And that made my experience with this game go much smoother than I initially expected. And I can't thank him enough. Since this was my first deck builder, I had started with easy mode in the beginning, but I am also trying out harder difficulties as I go on. I'm most comfortable playing normal difficulty as of now, but I am experimenting with the Jade box on hard mode, just to get my toes in, if anything. I've beaten the game with all 5 characters, but my first victory was with Sakuya. This game has a lot of really gorgeous card artwork, and there's multiple artists working on this game, which is really cool. You get to see a lot of varied art styles here. And I will say, the music arrangements here are some of my favorites I've seen for fan remixes, with my favorite being Tenshi's theme. Since this is the alpha build, we don't exactly have a full story yet. From the few deck builders I've played, this is actually my favorite, and it's part of what helped me love Touhou again, if anything. For Yohane, I initially had wanted to try the Metroidvania, Blaze in a Deep Blue, but seeing as I was having some difficulties with the demo, I'll be trying easier Metroidvanias before visiting that. In the meanwhile, I got the deck builder, Numazu and the Mirage. This one's meant to be an introduction for the genre, but it isn't a bad thing in the slightest. While easy mode is a bit more of a cakewalk, normal mode is actually pretty challenging for me, and I do want to tackle it again eventually. However, unlike Lost Branch's alpha build, this game actually has a story to it. Yohane finds a magic mirror by chance, hoping it'll help with the accuracy of her fortune-telling skills. She ends up being sucked into the mirror world, reverse Numazu, where she finds mirror versions of her friends and gets into all sorts of wacky shenanigans. I will say it's super cool to see some Love Life games that aren't exclusively mobile gacha games, and I'm kind of hoping we see more things like this in the future. I'd especially love something with Nichi Kasaki. I just want to rekindle my interest in this series, if anything. GardenBuddies is one of the coziest games I've ever played. The graphics and art style sort of remind me of the more cartoony games on the Xbox 360 if anything. While the main focus is building up a garden with Mutsi and other friends that you meet along the way, they also sprinkle in some things relating to mental health, such as box breathing and positive affirmations, which is honestly really sweet. As someone who deals with anxiety issues on the daily, I absolutely appreciate GardenBuddies incorporating these coping skills to help make things a little less scary in this world. I will admit this made me cry a bit, but in a good way. It's just an incredibly sweet game. And I love seeing this sort of thing incorporated into gaming, if anything. Princess Peach's Showtime released when my Mario fixation was very prominent, and the game looked absolutely adorable from what was shown in the Nintendo Direct. I knew I had to get this. I know people say that the gameplay for this is simple. Yeah, it's aimed toward a younger audience, but it's still rather difficult to 100%. Sometimes I need simple games in my life like this or Hamtaro Ham Hams Unite. I just want to turn my brain off while the horrors are happening, you know? The game takes place at Sparkle Theater, and the levels are all set up like stage plays. I loved seeing the different types of gameplay styles for all 10 costumes, and they all just felt so varied if anything. My personal favorites are the patisserie and mermaid transformations. For patisserie, I love baking in general, and Peach's hair reminds me a lot of Momoko from Ojamajo Doremi. And the mermaid levels genuinely made me feel like I'm watching The Little Mermaid on loop as a child again. Even the boss fights were rather interesting to play through, so that was really satisfying. For me, this is a very cozy variety platformer, and I absolutely had a fun time playing it. If it's not your cup of tea, that's also okay. I know it's not for everybody, but I'm glad that I at least enjoyed the game myself. So, this is the sequel to Twinkle Star Sprites that we only got in Japan, huh? It's a shame that it didn't release here in the West. It's really charming, and dare I say I like it a bit more than the first game. As far as I'm aware, there's no English translation, so I don't really know the exact details and dialogue of the story, other than it takes place 3 days after the first game. It plays exactly like the first Twinkle Star Sprites game. There's nothing too much to write home about sequel-wise, other than there's new characters and they're pretty cute. I absolutely love the art style here too. It reminds me a lot of Ojamajo Doremi, similar to how the first game has an art style similar to Sailor Moon or Cardcaptor Sakura. I also really like the use of 2D artwork for cutscenes and 3D models for the actual gameplay. It's got that kind of early 2000s charm that Puyo Puyo Fever has, and I find that adorable. This is a very unique kind of shoot 'em up game, and the only series I really saw try to replicate it is Touhou, with its 3rd, 9th, and 19th entries in the series. That's how unique it is. If you're wanting to try something unique in this genre, I would say check it out. It's really cute. Josh had also gifted me a huge bundle of humongous entertainment titles for my birthday, and you know what that means? Nostalgia trip! I remember my older brother playing Freddi Fish and Putt-Putt when we were small, but I wasn't sure if I beat them myself as a kid. I know we beat Pajama Sam and that we had some of the backyard sports titles, but not the other franchises if I recall right. These were relatively quick game clears, and it was really nice to be able to revisit these games that my siblings and I grew up with. It was a literal trip down memory lane, if anything. I had a pretty good time with Putt-Putt, which is really simple and to the point due to it being the first of Humongous Entertainment's junior adventure titles. And while I liked the story and cutscenes for Freddi Fish, it just felt like fetch quest after fetch quest, if anything, in my eyes. It's basically Fetch Quest 64. I'm gonna nickname it that. I'm a bit unsure if I'll continue the Freddi Fish games, but I will be continuing the Putt-Putt games when I can. These were pretty fun, if anything. When I first saw the remake for this unveiled in the September 2023 Nintendo Direct, I was still getting into playing the first game on the Nintendo 64, and I thought, oh, cool, I'm happy that Paper Mario fans got this. I ended up really enjoying Paper Mario on the N64, and I decided to get Thousand Year Door's remake as a bit of a late birthday gift for myself. I heard a lot of praise about it after all. Oh my goodness, I get it. I get why this is such a beloved game! The story was fantastic, I love the music, and oh boy, the characters! The mechanics feel like they've improved from the N64 game, and the environments are just so fun to explore. I don't know the subtle differences from this in the original GameCube, but I know at least that the graphics and the music had been remade from the ground up. I know graphics would have to be a must for remaking something like this, but the music as well? That's incredible. I'm all for it. Also, without spoiling too much, I relate deeply with Vivian's story, and I genuinely love her as a character. She's rightfully risen up to being one of my favorite characters in the series alongside Watt, and she's actually one of my favorite characters of all time. I care her immensely. This truly is a very wonderful game in my opinion, and the wait for it was worth it. Very stellar remake. I would recommend. I saw this at my local secondhand store, remembered that my good pal Josh recommended it to me, and I had to pick it up and try it for myself. It's actually a really interesting puzzle game that has some mechanics that are unique to it. The character designs are really nice, and the pieces in the gameplay look really cute with the star and cloud theming, but I gotta admit something. It's brutal. It's so brutal for me. Like, I'm actually trying to figure out how I was able to beat it earlier this year. Probably stubbornness. I'm like that sometimes. But it's a little too fast-paced for me, honestly, with even normal mode being really brutal for me. And this is coming from someone who plays Puyo Puyo and Penalty Pawn on the regular. I know how fast-paced those games can be. I know that when I went into this, I went straight into normal difficulty, and I didn't really practice much, but like, I don't think it should get this brutal on normal difficulty. I will say I will give this another chance eventually. I want to give myself some time before I do so. The music's also really good at the very least. It's got those Sonic Adventure vibes that feel really nostalgic. But hey, I think it's still pretty neat. Overall, it's not a bad game. It's just, it might not be for me, and that's okay. Super Monkey Ball is a series that I literally grew up with, so it was an absolute delight to see a brand new entry from the series that wasn't a remake. It's definitely something to keep me upbeat during these trying times. And when I say something is peak, I mean it. This game is absolutely peak. I love it. The new designs for the characters look super adorable, the story was really nice for what it is, and Palette is a very fun addition to the cast. She quickly rose up to be one of my favorites alongside Baby and Mimi. She's just too cute. The stage design is phenomenal, and it's on par with the first two GameCube games, if anything. As of recording this, I'm still trying to beat the final extra world. That's how much difficulty was put in, and I actually applaud Sega for that. Also, I need to say this right now, putting Godzilla and Hatsune Miku in the same game via the recent 2.00 update is incredibly funny, and I'm also applauding them for that. I know Miku would have been a bit more expected, since Project Diva, Project Mirai, and Project Sekai are things Sega's involved with, but I didn't expect Godzilla. I'm curious to see who else will be added. Anyway, this game's like 10 out of 10. I think it's my game of the year, but we'll have to see. For anyone wondering why I'm actually deciding to cover this, this has a campaign via the best hits mode, so I'm gonna count this. This game is essentially a compilation of popular songs from the first 6 Poppin' music games and includes a few remixes from Poppin' 7, as well as a few songs and arrangements made to debut in Best Hits. Aside from the Best Hits campaign itself, the fact that you can actually save replays, and the fact that a few specific characters only appear in the specific PS2 version, there's not too much else to write home about for this version of Poppin'. The song list is tiny and only a couple songs are unlockable, so while this game clear didn't take too long, it didn't feel as satisfying as the later Poppin' console games that have actual unlock systems. And you know what? That's perfectly okay. It's still fun to revisit now and then. Teacup is a very relaxing game. It's very much up there with GardenBuddies for one of the coziest games of all time for me. It reminds me so much of the humongous entertainment games that I grew up with, but it feels like you've jumped right into a storybook. You play as a sweet yet socially anxious frog girl named Teacup. Oh my goodness, she is just like me for real. And you have to play several different minigames and explore the town you live in to collect different ingredients for your tea party. I love that the game gives you fun facts about the tea ingredients you'll collect along the way, and the little town the game takes place in also reminds me a lot of the area I grew up in during my early childhood, so that made things feel a little bit more nostalgic for me than it should have. I actually really want to try some more tea thanks to this game, so if that's part of what they were aiming for, congrats! You did it, Teacup. I'm gonna try more tea thanks to you. But seriously, she's just like me for real. When I say the power of positive association is strong, I absolutely mean it. My closest friends, Maku and Josh, got me into the Marl Kingdom trilogy, and it turned into my next big fixation. To say I can't thank them both enough for getting me into it is a bit of an understatement, so thank you both again. Let me tell you, this absolutely is a hidden gem, and if you know me well, I'm very much someone who loves looking into niche media. The best way I can describe Rhapsody is if you combine the Studio Ghibli film with a Disney Princess musical. This game actually has musical numbers, and the English dub's pretty good for the time it was recorded in. I love how expressive everyone looks in their sprite artworks, both overworld and in the dialogue boxes. The music's also stellar, with the track playing right now being what really sucked me into the game. It sounds like something you'd hear in Kiki's delivery service. I know the story's a bit cheesy at points, but it did make me cry a bit. I'm a bit like that. This is actually a tactics sort of RPG as opposed to a traditional JRPG. That and the side quests relating to the puppets you collect makes this pretty unique in my book. It's a literal tie for my favorite PS1 game alongside Klonoa Door to Phantom Isle. Very charming game, one that I definitely see myself replaying in the future. Alright, let me ask you all this. How often do you have a video game sequel where you play as the protagonist's kid? That's what we got for Rhapsody 2, Ballad of the Little Princess. This just took what I loved about the first game and amplified it all by like 1,000%. All of the songs are absolute bangers, I really love the characters, and it's giving me ideas for art and a potential game project that I might go forward with. That rarely ever happens nowadays for me, so that's saying a lot. While the first Rhapsody is a tactics RPG, Rhapsody 2's battles play more like a traditional JRPG, though there is a bit of a twist with this. You actually use up some of your Inotium, the currency in the series, when you have your puppets help fight. It's actually a pretty interesting mechanic, and it made me think more of what to do in battles. Let me tell you, this was a very unexpected release with how niche it is. And it's rarely fantastic. It's really fantastic. However, the only downside is not every song is translated in-game. What I mean by this is, while we got an excellent English dub for the regular dialogue, the songs themselves weren't dubbed. Don't get me wrong, it's incredible that something this niche here in the West even got an official English translation, but I wish we had in-game translations for every song. Despite that, it's a fantastic game that's quickly become one of my all-time favorites. This actually released on the PS1 in Japan, so yes. This means there's a three-way tie for my favorite game on PS1. This, the first Rhapsody, and Klonoa Door to Phantom Isle. Because I know a good chunk of my audience follows me because of the Klonoa series, let me share a fun fact with you all that ties it together with Rhapsody. Did you know that several voice actors from Klonoa 2 played roles in the Rhapsody trilogy as well? I'm putting these two together since I finished them both within a few hours while exploring the SNES section of NSO, and they were recommended to me by a few friends. Why not? Magical Drop 2 got very brutal toward the end, even on normal difficulty, but it was still a really fun game. I love how the puzzle system works for this, and the character designs are very neat with the tarot card theming. And Sugoi Hebereke is a silly little fighting game where you literally play as little guys and get through a campaign mode. I'm not sure how else to describe it other than it's kinda like Smash Bros. Before Smash Bros. Came to be. I liked it more than I thought I would, and I'd replay this again if I needed a bit of time to kill. I've been a Klonoa fan for almost 15 years now, and one goal I've had for years is to beat every single Klonoa game in existence. With how difficult it is to play outside of Japan, I only recently found a way to play Moonlight Museum, so into the 2024 backlog it goes. This is the final Klonoa game I had to complete, and I really enjoyed it. And no, I'm not just saying that because it's Klonoa, I actually had a lovely time with the game. This is the simplest of Klonoa titles out there, but simple doesn't mean bad. There's no boss fights like in most of the other entries, just puzzles. They can get a bit challenging toward the end, but it's a very short and sweet game. And I think that's just right for the first handheld Klonoa game. As the title may suggest, the game takes place in an art museum and even explores different mediums of art in each world, which absolutely delights me as an artist. Though I will say that I find it ironic how the entry that takes place in such a place is on a handheld system with monochrome colors. And I'm kind of hoping it gets the remake treatment someday due to that alone. I want to see this in color someday. And with this, I've actually cleared every single Klonoa game. It's certainly been a journey, and I'm quite glad that I could play all the series has to offer thus far. And I'm really hoping we get a new entry in the future. It's just as it says on the tin, 20 small maces, all for free on Steam. Very clever, very fun and simple game clear. That's all there is to it. It's as simple as that. So, So, this was a game I gradually worked on for the last few months of the year. I started it around August, if I recall right, and I finished it at the start of December. It's actually a really fun puzzle game that gets challenging later on. And yes, I do mean challenging. Some of the areas you have to fit through are very tight squeezing your ship that's always spinning, especially in the final few worlds. I did clear this on easy difficulty to make the experience smoother for me as a newcomer, because I came here for a good time, not an overly frustrating time. It's really cute overall. If you like puzzle games, I say go for it. Try it out. And there we are! That was every game I had cleared this year. I had a pretty good time with this, despite how the year went. It was actually nice to be able to get into a few new franchises, and also go into nostalgia mode every now and then. Let me also give a special shout out to games I either started or made progress on, but did not get the opportunity to exactly finish this year. Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Tomato Adventure, Uinako Question Arcs, Moko Moko Friends, Hello Kitty Apron of Magic, Reciteer and Item Shop's Tale, Rhapsody 3 Memories of Marl Kingdom, Sonic X Shadow Generations, and last but not least, Pikmin 2. Because it does not end when you rescue Louie, but you have to collect every single treasure, all 201 of them. I love you Pikmin 2, but that was certainly a choice Nintendo had made. I will say real quick that Sony Vegas was not kind to me when I was making this video, so I might stick with shorter videos and music playlists for a while after this. Feel free to subscribe or whatever it is people do these days, and I'll see you whenever the heck the next upload is. Peace.